Alright, what's up guys? In today's video, we're going to take an in-depth look at the tactical foregrip. I'm going to be answering the big question of what it actually does, what are the unique stats about it, and how it affects your overall class setup. And then also talking about the hidden stats and yes or no, do I recommend using it? And if the answer is yes, on which weapons? So the first and foremost, most important thing to talk about is what it actually does. Aiming stability is actually your idle sway. You guys will see a little clip on the screen right now what that actually is. So what your aiming stability is when you are aimed down sight while not shooting, your idle sway basically affects your gun and makes your reticle move around, so it's not easy to hit your first shot. Basically it affects your first shot accuracy, which is what somewhat balances the weapons to make them fair to use. So if you put the tactile foregrip on there, it actually makes that idle sway better, which you guys can see a little clip on the screen of the M4 with and without the tactile foregrip. I definitely recommend this as an attachment to use on one weapon only. It does not affect your recoil, and on the couple of the weapons I tested, it actually made my recoil a little bit worse. So obviously, like I said, affects your idle sway. Idle sway helps improve your overall accuracy. If you have better first shot accuracy, usually it's a lot easier to kill enemies. The big negative about it is actually that hidden stat that it has. So the obvious negative is the mobility. It says it affects your movement speed. It's about 1% slower when you compare it to the Commando foregrip, which is about 2% slower, and the Merc is about 4% faster. It's definitely pretty average as far as the negative, but there is a hidden stat about it, which once again the same thing the Commando has, which is your ADS stray speed, which it affects your ability to strafe left and right fast. It does affect your stray speed anywhere between 8 and 11%, which is either the slowest for LMGs or a average for ARs, which to me is a big negative because ADS stray speed to me is what helps you win gunfights. If you can't strafe as fast, you're an easier target to hit and obviously an easier target to kill. So what we're going to take a look at is 5 different weapons and how it actually affects their recoil. As I said, there's one gun I recommend it on in most, which is obviously the Grau. It is the only attachment I use besides the Commando on my Grau class setup because it actually definitely 100% affected my recoil. You guys will be able to see the picture on the screen of the Grau. I have the base recoil on the left, the Commando in the middle, and then obviously the tactical on the right. You guys can see those first initial shots with the first 2 attachment. It goes up and then pulls hard to the left and then pulls hard back to the right. It's somewhat hard to counter. With the tactile foregrip, it actually pulls directly straight up and down, which is very easy to control. A vertical recoil only pattern is the easiest to control, the easiest to counter. All you have to do is pull down on your mouse or pull down on your right joystick. This is the only gun I found it useful on. It's actually probably the only attachment I use on my Grau right now besides the Commando. As far as the other 3 the guns I tested on, we have the Bruin, the M4, the MP5, and the AN94. 3 of those weapons was the MP5, the AN94, and the Bruin. It actually, to me, looked a little bit worse than the base weapon itself and was actually a lot worse than the Commando foregrip. So the biggest factor in comparing it to that Commando foregrip is it only affects your movement speed and your stray speed. In exchange, you get a slightly better stability with both. So we're compared to the Commando because the Commando is the same thing as it, just slightly less as important. So with that Bruin, you guys will see on the screen, it definitely was worse than the base and a lot worse than the Commando. Same thing with the AN94, worse than the base, a lot worse than the Commando. And same with the MP5. These are some of the most popular weapons, and if it's actually making your accuracy worse, I 100% recommend avoiding it. And then with the M4, it actually had no change at all. There was really no difference in using it with or without it. And with the M4 having such a fast fire rate, getting a better first shot accuracy is kind of useful, but in my opinion does nothing for the M4, so I don't recommend it. But like I said, on the Grau, it definitely 100% improved recoil. So as far as if we take a look at what it actually does with that idle sway, you guys will see once again the base versus the tactical, it definitely 100% helps. And then as far as comparing it to the Commando, you guys will see the little video clip on the screen. If you look at the actual head, it's the easiest way to tell how much idle sway a gun really has. You guys can see the Commando is definitely a good improvement over the base. Obviously not as good as the tactile, but to simplify the video, you have the tac laser and the Commando foregrip, which both improve your stability. And then obviously in exchange, this improves it. So if you compare it to the tac laser and the Commando, both are better, in my opinion, by a long shot. So those are the only other 2 attachments you would replace the tactile with to pick it over those 2. I definitely think it doesn't compete with those. It definitely improves your idle sway by a lot. but the tack layers are also going to improve your steadiness and your aim down sight for no negatives, and the commandos are going to improve your stabilization and your stability for the same negatives as the tactile foregrip. So it does both those attachments do better than tactile to do the same positive they get. So as far as answering the final question, is it worth using? I would definitely say no. If 3 out of the 5 weapons had a worse recoil pattern than the base and only one gun had a better recoil pattern, you just have to find out which gun it definitely works on. But I personally have always used the commando, and I'm definitely going to stick to using the commando because it improves your stabilization, which is the hardest thing to find. A lot of the attachments improve your stability, like the Ranger, the Commando, the Tac Laser. You have a stock that does it. So there's a lot of attachments that do what the Tactile does, and the Tactile really isn't that good over any of those other attachments. So I don't really recommend it, but hopefully this video helped you guys learn something new. Makes you decide whether you should or should not be using the Tactile. Maybe switch your Grau class setup. If you guys did enjoy, like I said, make sure you guys leave a like, leave a comment down below. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel, and make sure you guys use code Trapgod on all of your SCUF and GFUEL purchases. And I'll talk to you guys in the next one.